Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sacramento Dugout Show. I'm here with my co-host Dominic Morris and I'm Todd Sullivan. Tonight we have a very special guest. Sacramento baseball is a mecca, but Bill Davis, you have your Sports Academy as well as your Sports Incorporated. So you have Davis Sports Incorporated, Davis Sports Academy, as well as a lot of things going on in this book. Bill Davis, thank you very much for being on our show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
It's a privilege to be here.
As usual, whenever we get started, some of the best stuff we talk about is when the cameras aren't rolling. So let's just go ahead and get going about. Let's introduce people about who you are. You're from California, Riverside, is that correct?
Yes, born and raised California. My family's second, third generation born in Riverside.
Okay.
Way back. We grew up on the east side of Riverside, we called it, and a plethora of athletes, all sports, came out of our neighborhoods back into the 60s. And what I remember about it a lot is we were a bedroom community in Los Angeles, and the Scouts didn't come to Riverside very often. Until Bobby Bonds came on the scene and woke everybody up, and after that, there was a lot more scouting activity in our
That's
area.
interesting. So if the Scouts weren't coming around, where you had some big time ball players, one of my favorite ball players, Barry Bonds, you said was living in your neighborhood.
Yes.
Is that what made you become a scout? Because you're associated scout for the Seattle Mariners.
Yes. Well, scouting came really as a byproduct of my love for the game.
Nice.
and wanting to stay involved. I spent a little time with the Atlanta Braves as an associate scout before the Mariners, but I'm around kids. It just made sense for me because I was around ball players at a young age and helping to develop them and going to events, national tournaments and whatnot, where the talent pools are there. So scouting just made sense and comes with the territory for me.
Yeah, so you said you played college ball at California Baptist. How did you go from playing college ball to becoming a professional scout?
Well, it was a long and winding road. I was always a player first, and so after college, injury ended my college career. After I got healthy, I started playing men's league and doing some stuff around Riverside. Eventually, I got married, had a family, and I didn't start coaching until my kids got old enough to play. Once I started coaching, I realized that I was pretty good at it, and I could reach the kids and communicate them real well. I had a real good idea of skills development. Use my imagination on drills and whatnot to practice and keep kids engaged and make them better. So I started in Little League, like every other parent, right? But it grew on me. Then I started doing hitting lessons. I got hooked up with a guy named Mike Spears, who had an organization called Amateur Baseball Development, ABD. Grew into one of the nationally ranked and known club organization. Well, I helped him start it, essentially. Coached one of his teams. We went to the first USA Baseball 16 and under national championships and won it. We're in their record books. Beat CC Sabathia when he was a 15-year-old in the championship game. From there, I came to Northern California. My work career was local government.
Okay.
And I worked in the Department of Child Support Services in Riverside County. Got a chance to come to Sacramento County, and that's what brought me here. So once I got here, I hooked up in the baseball community and started coaching again. I coached with Rob Bruno in the NorCal program for a couple of years.
Very well.
Had some pretty good players.
Yeah.
And again, we're on the national stage. And so you see players, you compete against players, you get a pretty good idea of who can do it and who can't. And so scouting, getting back to that, just really came naturally out of my evolution as from coach to player to instructor.
So how was that? You were in Northern California regional director for amateur baseball. I know that takes a lot of time. How are you able to do that and do what you're doing with your scouting and teaching with your academy? and stuff?
It actually, at that point, the ABD was first. I wasn't involved as a scout yet. Mike actually helped me with that because he was also scouting he's worked for a couple of different organizations over the years. Got me hooked up with the Braves. But as an associate scout, I don't really have a defined responsibility, territory and stuff. I could go pretty much wherever I want. If I find talent, I'm obligated to turn it over to the Mariners, and then they turn it over to their local people, and it goes from there. But it's the scouting. Scouting for me is I just like to watch players. I know what a good player looks like. First of all, I know what a good athlete looks like.
Right.
What does a good athlete look like?
Athletic guy, run, jump, hand-eye coordination.
Now that we're talking about exactly what, I have a couple of kids here that are tremendous athletes, and I can see the ability that they have. What would you say to a young athlete to make sure that they stayed at that upper competitive, being able to compete at that level?
Keep working.
Keep working, kids.
Is one of my catchphrases. When I talk to, and I still talk to some kids who are now men and they're doing their own things with their lives. That's one of my catchphrases. You just it's work, and you have to continue the work to get better. My philosophy with hitting was don't worry that you can't hit the ball over the fence. We're talking about 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids, right? Don't worry that you can't hit the ball over the fence. Learn how to swing the bat correctly, and then do the work that's going to make you stronger, or it's going to come to you naturally. Genetically, it's going to come to you. And if your mechanics and your approach to the game are correct, the results are going to come.
Right.
And so that's how I look at it. So you ask me about what an athletic kid, if he's taught right and he has an interest in learning, he's going to get better.
So that's what it is. It's also character too, right? So
absolutely,
you gotta have the talent, right? You gotta have the potential. But another thing, you have to have the work ethic to break through, because there's thousands and thousands of people want to get the same position. So how you stand out is having that work ethic, wanting them more,
and a belief in self.
Exactly.
Another thing that I tell kids: don't let anyone tell you that you can't do something, because if you really want to, you'll find a way.
See, I'm real passionate about this conversation, because the standing line of topic of this show is academies versus Little League, and it goes right into the heart of really like teaching kids how to play the right way, the camaraderie of playing with your friends you grew up with, and just the love of baseball. And from a scout yourself, just telling us the importance of character and makeup of a player, it like really hits home with
it really does. And even more so too, I think you and I have a lot of similar. We had aspirations of being professional ball players. We both were contacted about being drafted. We both had our opportunity in college, but then we both got hurt. But I think, now that I look at it, I think it was because we're more so better teachers than players, because actually what you get out of your players are phenomenal. And there's some people that are just born to teach the game, and there's some people that are born to coach the game, there's some people that are born to play the game. And I just think that your niche is to teach, because that's exactly what we're going to talk about as soon as we get back from a break, because you have developed an app that can really help out high school and JUCO. Oh my God, when I looked at it, JUCO can definitely benefit from this. So when we get back, we're going to talk a lot more with Bill Davis right after these messages.
All right, and we're back with our special guest, Bill Davis. Now, in the first segment, we talked about scouting, your history, where you grew up at, and just the old principles of scouting. But we're in 2018 now. There's a vast amount of players out there, and everybody's on their phone, everybody's using technology, and you came up with a way where you could get all the players together, all in a centralized location. Please talk more about the Teaching Tool app and the inspiration behind it.
Okay. Well, That's my baby. and the inspiration, the genesis of it came out of my experience as a teacher, as an instructor, and then scouting and really the whole picture of it, college recruiting, all those things factored into how I, my concept and how I try to develop it. I always had issues with time as an instructor. You schedule an appointment and a hitting appointment for half an hour, and I really only spent maybe 15 to 20 minutes in the cage actually doing the work. The other time was spent trying to communicate with my players and their parents about, okay, tell me how you did this past week. I taught kids, I didn't coach them. So I wasn't at their games. I didn't see how my teaching and their work in the cage translated onto the field. And so I would spend time talking about that because I needed to know, okay, what do we need to be working on? The descriptions I got were varied. Everybody's results driven, right? So the kid would tell me, oh, I had a horrible day. Well, tell me why. Well, I hit the ball hard 3 times, but I didn't get on base. I said, okay, that sounds like a pretty good day to me.
Exactly, you hit the ball hard.
Yeah, so that's what we're after, right? That's what we're trying to accomplish. So those types of things, being able to video in the development of video as a tool is great, because now I don't have to count on the description from a kid or a parent on what it looked like.
So breaking down how it works, a parent or a friend of the person that's playing will videotape the player taking their at-bats, pitching or whatever skill they're doing. They upload it on your app, and you'll be able to review it and send them notes. And
Yes.
Wow.
We can comment if we catch them at the right time. I can actually talk to the parent while the game's going on.
Oh wow! So like, say a guy,
it's instantaneous.
he swung on a curveball blowing in. You could see that and say, "Hey, lay off the curveball."
Exactly, because that's the same thing that I have. With Perfect Game Pitching Solutions, I teach the kids. I can't get out to the game. I'd say, send me your schedule. If I can make the games, I'll try. I'll do my best. And then when you talk to the kid, it's like if they didn't throw a perfect game or had a shutout or a complete game, they were terrible.
Right.
So as a coach, it's hard to grasp those things. I can definitely see how that would be a benefit tool for somebody like myself to be able to keep the kids at their maximum potential.
Well, and so I 100%.
Yeah.
I'm with you. The back end of my time spent, the communication was about trying to evaluate them, let them know where I thought they were.
Right.
In terms of development and skill development. So my app, the teaching tool, encompasses those components: video feedback, the ability to evaluate performance, and then the communication tool that's there. Every player who's in the app has a profile.
Okay.
With I call it demographic information: height, weight, year in school, position, throw, bat, those types of things, foot speed, and then the videos attached to that profile. So once the videos come in, I can look at them, evaluate them, and then there's a scorecard that's attached to the video. And I can break the skills down and tell them, I developed a scale that is pertinent to amateur baseball. It's mirrored after Major League Scouting scale, player development
make
scale.
Up the 5 tools.
So yeah.
Okay.
It's all the same, right?
Yeah.
It's all the same. It's baseball.
Right.
But the way I developed it was not with pros in mind at all. It was with amateurs.
Okay.
From kids 8 up to high school, 18. And then I built the scale on age groups. So performance levels are tied to age groups. So as an example, a kid that's 12 years old can throw the ball 90 miles an hour is going to get a really high scale, a really high score on the scale, as opposed to someone his age who can only throw at 50. And then the scale goes from, okay, you're a beginner to you're a national talent, and then everything in between.
I'm putting my summer collegiate baseball hat on now. So like me as a coach, as a GM or somebody that runs an organization, I look at your app like a gold mine. Now it's taking the ease out of like recruiting players. Like, so if you have all the high school guys on there that's last year of high school going to college, I could see who could be my shortstop, who could be my pitcher, my pitching staff. And so is there a tool set up for prospective coaches to get players on teams, or how does that work in with different organizations?
Well, it's the app is a relational concept. There are roles: player, parent, instructor, coach, and then scout. And the scouts can be professional scouts, or they can be college recruiters. All on the professional side of things, coaches, instructors, and scouts have to be vetted. I want to make sure that they're qualified to evaluate people, because the integrity of the information is critical.
Absolutely.
So if a college recruiter, I prefer to talk about the college recruiting than the pro thing, because there are more opportunities there for kids than there are at the pro game.
And it's bigger right now, especially with JUCO, with the junior colleges, and I really think that's where your app can excel, because how a lot of people are now going straight to junior college due to the fact that the 9 scholarships per year are so limited, and they're taken away from you very quickly. And most people start at junior college, they play a year or two, and they're able to get to a D1 or a D2 at that point, and get to a 4-year university college. And I can see how that app would help out universities, big time. Just like how the 5 tool, or you have Max Preps that does their rating system and they rank. They nowhere near have the amount of categories that your app has that can individually break the player down.
Well, it's for the industry. I consider it an industry tool, and so it speaks to people who are baseball people.
Well, Mr. Davis, where can people find your app, and where can people find more information about yourself?
The app is on the Apple Store. We only have an iOS version at the current time.
For now, probably later coming out Android.
Yes, we'll have an Android version. They can find it on the App Store. Just search the teaching tool. We have a link. We have a landing page. That's web.davissportsinc.com, and if they go to the landing page, then there's a link at the bottom, and they can click the link, and that takes them to the App Store, right to our app, and it's a free download. It's subscription based, but it comes with a free trial, and it's affordable. It's for parents are paying the freight.
They're paying a lot.
So we're trying to keep it affordable so that people will use it.
It's a lot better than those recruitment videos those parents are paying for. Just to let those parents know, the recruitment videos, they can really take a little bit less of that.
And they're expensive.
And very expensive. And a lot of those videos just stay on the coach's desk anyway.
I was going to say it's another alternative. We could talk about this
all day.
We're running out of time. But for Mr. Davis, Todd, it's been another edition of the Sacramento Dugout Show. You could catch us online, our brand new Instagram page, Sacramento Dugout, as well as on Facebook.com/Sacramento Dugout. You can also find us right here on Access Sacramento. For Dominic Morris, Todd Sullivan, we'll catch you next time.
This is where we normally do our hot corner topic, and we're going to set that aside right now because Bill Davis is such a unique and special individual to me and to the baseball community. And before the show, you were telling us that you grew up on the same street with who?
With Bobby Bonds, and his later wife, Barry's mom, Pat Howard. We all lived on the same street. Pat had brothers that were athletes. All the Bonzes were athletes. And Bobby was like my big brother. He spent a lot of time in our home, taught me how to do a lot of things. And athletically, we played football in the street, and they were all older guys. I was the youngest one. They'd give me the football. We'd play football, and they'd block one another and give me the ball to run with it, right? And they'd beat fire out of one another, trying to get me through the line and score touchdowns. So if I didn't do it right, I heard about it. Bobby was as special an athlete as I've ever seen in my life, and I mean that sincerely. A lot of people, if you study his story, then you know he was a four-sport athlete, world class in more than one thing. He held the state long jump record in high school that lasted for 20 years. He jumped 25 feet. And the story goes that he did it in his baseball uniform. That I can't verify. I was a little young. I wasn't there for it. Okay? Yeah. But Bobby ran track. He did everything. The Giants signed him before there was an amateur draft. The year before the amateur draft started. Wow. So everybody was a free agent, and they came and swooped him up. And the rest is history.
My recollection of Bobby Bonds, just watching like Sports Century on ESPN Classic, was that he was a guy that, late 50s, like early 60s, in the heart of civil rights uprising, he was a player that stood his own. Mm-hmm. Like he was a player that didn't tolerate all the racial incidents that was going on. He was often compared opposite of Willie Mays. And one thing that I admired about like that Giants team with Willie McCovey and all them, like he was a guy that really was on the forefront of standing up like racial pride. Do you remember anything of that growing up with him?
I mean, is that all a part of Riverside? Because you're a quiet, content, and a very strong individual. Bobby's the same way, and Barry especially is. Barry was always an observer, very quiet, and a lot of people think his quiet was more of arrogance, but it was not. People just don't know how much he's always paying attention and observing. So is that in the water in Riverside? Is that where you guys get it from?
Our parents.
Your parents, there we go.
Put it into us. I don't want to use the wrong word, but
I brought it up because I have important family here. I brought them in for a reason to hear this.
We were, our parents were involved in the NAACP and civil rights and integration of schools. All those things were going on at the time. Bobby's personality and really the Bonds family were leaders. They didn't follow. They were confident people. One of the brothers played professional football for the Cardinals when they were in St. Louis. His sister ran in the Olympics in 1960. She was on the Olympic team. She was a hurdler. They were real athletes. Wow. And so Bobby's personality was just that he didn't take a lot of stuff from people. He competed hard. He had some fantastic skills. And it's funny that they would compare him to Mays because they were best friends. Mays is Barry's godfather, so they were constantly together. But two different people. Yeah, two different people. And those were pretty rough times. Those days, and the struggle was real. Yep. But we were taught to take a man as who he was. Color, skin didn't matter. Our community was pretty integrated, just naturally. African American, Hispanic, Caucasian, Asian. We all lived in the same blocks, went to the same schools. That's just the way Riverside was at the time. So Bobby was just Bobby, and he just didn't take a lot of stuff. And you mentioned arrogance. I know him pretty well. There was some arrogance sprinkled in there, but you have to have that swag to achieve the things that they achieved. Barry, they left Riverside when Barry was real small, so I didn't really get to know Barry until he was in college. He came to Arizona State and lived with my mom. My brother Alvin went to Arizona State. And after he graduated, Barry was coming in, and Pat and Bobby, his parents, asked my mom if he could stay with them, and so he spent some time with my mom in Tempe while he was at Arizona State. So that's the Barry that I know, right? But he was 18 years old and brash, and had a brand new car, and he had the benefits of his dad's career, and took it further. But I've always said, and if Barry was here, I'm sure he'd disagree with me, but the athlete that Barry wasn't close to what his dad was. In my eyes, his dad was
better or worse?
Better. His dad was better.
Oh wow, Bobby Bonds is better than Barry Bonds, you think?
But Barry got the benefit of being in the clubhouse with Bobby, with Mays, with McCovey, and all those pros, right? And Dusty's from Riverside too, okay? Dusty Baker. Right. They didn't live on the same street, but they weren't too far away, and so that was our group. That was our circle. Okay. Barry got the benefit of all that, and he had the athletic ability to take it to the level that he took it. But his dad was an amazing athlete.
Wow.
Amazing athlete.
Well, Bill, we really appreciate you coming on the show. You're definitely a humble man in the community, but you're a very important icon in the community as well, not just the baseball community, but the community itself. I know you're from Riverside, but Sacramento definitely thanks you for giving back, and we really appreciate you being on the show. Love to do a lot more work with you, and we'll definitely have Bill again. And thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.